Eight, not. Yeah, we could probably use. That'll be easy. That'll be easy.
Easy.
He's got to get it blue. Something. Not on. That one.
Isn't it?
His business.
You got a
he's 'em
vintage,
all.
you wearing a vintage Springfield pin or is? Yeah. Is it a vintage?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah. He used
What
to
was it?
change. He used to change all the.
Yeah.
Um,
What's it say? Ever up?
Actually,
No. Friendly faces. That's right.
We should t-shirt that. We should tell them to put it.
it looks better than this one too.
I got that one too. It's amazing. Fun.
Back to warm weather.
It's just amazing.
You brought it to us. If anybody did, it was Jeannie.
Before we begin this evening, I believe that Commissioner Phillip has a proclamation.
City of Springfield, Ohio proclamation. Whereas over 7 million Americans have developmental disabilities in the United States, and 17% of children aged 3 to 17 have one or more developmental disabilities. And whereas nearly 1,500 people with developmental disabilities live in Clark County, and whereas more than 800 residents of Clark County work as direct support professionals for individuals with developmental disabilities who are living at home, in group homes, or independently, and for individuals in employment and day-hab programs. And whereas citizens should do all within their power to make our community welcoming for people of every ability, and our community should foster opportunities for people with developmental disabilities to help them function as independently and productive as possible. Now, therefore, he, Mayor R. Copeland, Mayor of the City of Springfield, Ohio, and President of the City Commission, do hereby proclaim March 15th, 2020 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in Springfield, and urge our citizens to recognize our community is stronger when everyone participates.
Someone here to accept it?
Yes, I believe
what I thought.
Marty is here. Oh, hi, Marty.
You want to say anything? Go to the microphone if you are. Fine.
On behalf of the staff at the County Board of Developmental Disabilities and the children and adults that we serve, we appreciate that the city recognizes how important it is that we include people with disabilities into all functions of life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The meeting is called to order. Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Here.
Mr. O'Neill,
Here.
Ms. Phillip,
Here.
Mr. Rue,
Here.
Mr. Copeland.
Here. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Our God, we meet this evening to make decisions for this community. Help us to do it well and to serve all of the people of Springfield as best we can. In your name we pray. Amen.
Flag, United States of America, to the republic which is stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
we do roll call?
Yes, we did.
Good. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes. Clerk will proceed with first readings by title only.
approving general salary increases for non-bargaining unit employees pursuant to Section 175.03C of the codified ordinances of the City of Springfield, Ohio, and authorizing the city manager to do all things necessary to implement such increases. Amending ordinance number 9190 passed March 12, 1991, and commonly known as the codified ordinances of the City of Springfield, Ohio, by repealing Section 905.02 titled Streets and Alleys, name change. Authorizing the purchase of two 2023 HB 607 SBA trucks for an amount not to exceed $174,649.82 from Rush Truck Centers through the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program in accordance with provisions of Section 5513.01B of the Ohio Revised Code. Authorizing the purchase of one AEBI TerraTrack Model TT211 tractor and accessories for an amount not to exceed $239,039.06 from Stanky Tractor Sales Incorporated through the Ohio Department of Transportation Cooperative Purchasing Program in accordance with the provisions of Section 5513.01B of the Ohio Revised Code. Authorizing the city manager to enter into an access agreement with Speedway LLC, granting access to city property and to permit the installation, operation, and maintenance of a monitoring well in the city's right-of-way.
Are there any questions or comments on first readings from commission? Mr.
Yes.
Estrop?
Thank you. Item 07822, my usual question, are those trucks produced here at Springfield at Navistar? I just think it's important. We're using local taxpayer money, and I think it's important that we can assure the local taxpayers that whenever possible, in terms of what the law permits, we're going to spend that money locally. So my question is, are those trucks produced here in Springfield?
Yes, these are international trucks. They replace a 2012 and a 2013 within our sewer division. And yes, we're proud to be able to support locally and purchase these from international.
Great, thank you.
Anything else from commissioners on first readings? Anyone in the audience want to speak to a first reading? Clerk will proceed with second reading.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with APAC Architecture LLC for the design of a new fire station to be located on South Limestone Street for an amount not to exceed $350,000.
Move to adopt.
Second?
And moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Larry Ricketts. I live at 1736 North Fountain Boulevard. I'm just curious if the design of the firehouses is going to incorporate anything like solar panels or something like that to assist with the energy cost of the firehouses. It's a better time to do it during the architectural phase than it is later on.
Yeah, so we visited several stations as we even prepared for our own RFP process and looked at what some other communities were doing. And then we'll also have the architects evaluate all options as it relates to, having energy efficient stations and so.
I mean, are there grants available to look at this when there's city new builds, government new builds? Just curious. I know there were some green efforts at the airport, and we were able to apply for some federal funds for that.
Yeah, no indirect grants that I'm aware of that would go towards that. But again, it's something we'll have our architects evaluate and make the best recommendations and decisions for cost effectiveness and energy efficiency and so forth.
And again, this is federal money that we have received.
Yes, we are able to use the American Rescue Plan dollars that we receive through the federal government, and that will help us not only with the construction of this station, but 2 other additional stations in the community as well.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will proceed.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
confirming and approving the acceptance of a donation from Select Tech Services Corporation, doing business as Select Tech, of a wheeled fire extinguisher with an approximate value of $2,376.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Our thanks to Select Tech.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue, Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the renewed agreement with Gary Gilbert Jr., doing business as Gilbert Lawn Service for abatement and nuisance conditions services as needed by the city to increase the renewed agreement in an amount not to exceed $30,000 for a total amount not to exceed $70,000.
To adopt.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into amendment number 1 to the renewed agreement with OMAC Hauling Incorporated for abatement and nuisance condition services as needed by the city, to increase the renewed agreement in an amount not to exceed $30,000 for a total amount not to exceed $70,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing and directing the city manager to select certain identified parcels of real estate that constitute non-productive lands and to notify the prosecuting attorney or the county auditor of Clark County, Ohio, as the case may be, pursuant to sections 5722.03 and 5722.04 of the Ohio Revised Code, that the city wishes to acquire said parcels pursuant to the provisions of Ohio Revised Code Chapter 5722 and ordinance number 98-293 passed August 25th, 1998, and to do all things necessary to acquire said parcel.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
I was wondering if, this is our mow-to-own program, is it not?
Yes.
And I was wondering if someone might just very quickly review if people have a vacant lot near them, what can they do, who can they call to see
Yeah.
if it's up for mow-to-own?
So the Moto Own program was put into place back in 2016, and since we have been able to turn 170 properties, including these, over to owners, most of those being directly adjacent to the vacant lot, but we did expand the program to up to 1,000 feet of owning property near one of these vacant lots. And if you are interested in the program, you can reach out to our code enforcement division at 937-324-7380, and they will be able to provide additional information for the application. Costs about $135. That's the application fee, recording fees, and so forth for the deed. You mow the property one mowing season, which usually runs about April to October here. And then we will proceed with the next steps of taking the property through the land reutilization program and then transferring it to the new owner.
So essentially, you can acquire a vacant lot under your name for essentially $120 or.
Yeah.
And whatever the cost is to mow it. Keep.
Yep.
Best deal, and thank you.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Stinnett Industries LLC, doing business as Cut Perfection Lawn and Snow Removal Services for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes?
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Mike Lawn and More LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Adopt.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Lewis and Roebuck Services LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Four Corners Property Management LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Phillips,
Yes.
O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
Before we move on, I would just like to point out that the last 4 items or 5 items have all been for us to spend taxpayers' money to mow grass in vacant lots and properties and clean it up. And I forget, I was told how much we spend, but I think it's around $150,000 or so a year just to do this. And I hope that the actions we're taking and have taken will in fact reduce the amount of money we have to spend to mow some of the grass and pick up the garbage in these vacant lots. I just thought it was worth observing here. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Given fair, the Mow to Own program has really been successful over the last 5 years, Brian, 6 years.
Yeah, since 2016.
I mean,
so
I was skeptical in the beginning. Land grab, but it has been a great program.
Yes, it has.
Great program.
Yes.
I agree. Anybody else? Clerk will call the roll.
we voted on that last item. I'll read the next one.
Okay.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with ET's Lawn Maintenance and Landscaping LLC for weed cutting and lot clearing services as needed by the city for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the city? Anybody in the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase of sand and gravel with Enon Sand and Gravel LLC for an amount not to exceed $29,663.75.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Is this material that we're purchasing to use on our street repairs and repaving?
yeah, I'll have Chris just talk in general about all of these items
Yeah,
because
there's
they're all
several items.
interconnected.
This item and the next 5 to 6 items give us the opportunity to purchase the sand and gravel we need to fill holes in for water and sewer line excavations, and then the asphalt we need to top those holes off, and also asphalt that we need to do street repairs, whether it's potholes or some larger surface area repairs.
My understanding is, in some conversations we've had, that this year the pothole season has been a tough.
It has been a very tough one. A great example is what we had last week with 60-degree weather and then snow, and now we're back to 60-degree weather, and that does a number on our roads. We've dealt with it a lot this week.
If people have potholes and they report those,
Absolutely, and I want to say we've a lot of folks have been reporting them in the last week or so, and it's been great. But they can always call us at 525-5800 or click the Report a Concern button. It's on anywhere you navigate the city's website. There's a Report a Concern button that will let you report potholes.
thank you very much.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase of sand and gravel with the Shelley Company for an amount not to exceed $30,820.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland,
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase of sand and gravel with Mechanicsburg Sand and Gravel Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $152,000.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase of street materials with Highway LLC for an amount not to exceed $67,620.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase of street materials with A&B Asphalt Corporation for an amount not to exceed $340,550.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue? Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase of street materials with Valley Asphalt Corporation for an amount not to exceed $340,550.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for the purchase of street materials with Shelley Material Incorporated for an amount not to exceed $343,562.50.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? This is the last of this series, and it means we're getting all the stuff together to get to work. So good luck. Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Confirming purchases and the obtaining of services for the city and providing for payment therefore and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Amending ordinance number 2214 to revise the transfer of monies authorized and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Providing for supplemental appropriations within various funds and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Providing for the issuance and sale of notes in the maximum aggregate principal sum of $622,000 in anticipation of the issuance of bonds to pay for the cost of constructing sidewalks, curbs, gutters, comprised in the 2021 B Sidewalk Curb and Gutter Program at various locations throughout the city and declaring an emergency therein.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into Amendment 2 with JCI Jones Chemicals Incorporated for the purchase of liquid chlorine for use by the city's water treatment plant to increase the contract in an amount not to exceed $44,650 for a total amount not to exceed $88,150, confirming and approving related expenditures incurred from March 4, 2022 to the passage of this ordinance and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission?
Is this due to an increased cost of materials? And that's something we're beginning to see a lot.
Yes,
in our
Commissioners,
purchasing.
this is a substantial increase from what it was. It was at $700 a ton This has been increased. I believe this is the second price hike that we've seen, and it is now $1,700 a ton.
$1,000.
Yeah, and this is just one example of the price
to
hikes
come.
that we have seen, whether it be supply chain issues, other pieces of the volatile market that we're experiencing here.
I assume the guy at the microphone has something to say about this.
I was
No?
making sure he had it covered, and he
Okay.
has it covered.
Did he do it all right? All
Give him a
right.
thumbs up.
All right. Anybody else? Clerk will call the roll.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a purchase agreement for real estate for the purchase of certain real property located at 3925 South Charleston Pike from Yinks Holdings LLC for an amount not to exceed $305,000. Authorizing the city manager, law director, and the director of finance to perform all acts and execute all documents they consider necessary to fulfill the city's obligations under said purchase agreement and to comply with all relevant local, state, and federal legal requirements and declaring an emergency therein.
To adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the purchase of one case 590 SN four-wheel drive T4 Final from Southeastern Equipment Company for an amount not to exceed $133,728 plus trade-in credit of $60,000 for a net purchase amount not to exceed $73,728 through the Ohio Department of Administrative Services pursuant to Ohio's Cooperative Purchasing Act in accordance with the provisions of Section 125.04 of the Ohio Revised Code and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved and seconded. Questions, comments by the commission? Anyone in the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing an expenditure for an amount not to exceed $79,778.42 with Tyler Technologies Incorporated, formerly known as New World Systems Corporation, for the period of April 1, 2022 through September 30, 2022, to maintain computer software used by the city's Public Safety Department and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions, comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract with Miller Pipeline LLC for the 2022 miscellaneous sewer lining Phase 1 project for an amount not to exceed $450,219 and declaring it an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? Mr. Estrop?
I was wondering if Chris might explain to us how this process works, and I know you've done it before, Chris, but it's pretty slick, and it saves us some money and saves us tearing up some of our streets. So you would sort of explain how this works.
So this is a process where we're able to repair the underground sewer lines without digging them up. To oversimplify, the contractor installs seems like a fabric, but they call it a sock, and it reminds you of a sock. They force that through the sewer line with hot water, let the hot water cure the sock to make it a very hard standalone pipe. And then they use a little robotic machine that goes back through and cuts back in the service connections. And when they leave, we have what is like a brand new standalone sewer pipe. It generally only takes them to do a section of pipe in a neighborhood. They're there for a day. It's not disruptive at all. They don't dig anything up. There's usually only 2 trucks. It's a great process. We've been attempting to do $250,000 to $500,000 worth of this a year, and we've been doing it. I remember doing it in 1998, so it's been a long-standing program. It's worked well for us.
It really is pretty slick. How long normally, if you had to dig up a sewer, would a block take?
Well, if we were to just look at, we'll just say average depth, average street, you're looking at a month to a month and a half of disruption to do that. And it's dirty, it's loud, and in some cases, we still have to do that. But anywhere that we can find that's a candidate for this lining, we try to implement that.
Did I hear you correctly? You said similar block using this system, it would take a day?
Yeah, this is a
Wow.
one day process.
So a day versus a month, and, oh, that's great. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue? Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
Authorizing the city manager to enter into Amendment E to the engineering services agreement with Black and Veatch Corporation for the primary effluent pumps replacement evaluation and design project to increase the contract for an amount not to exceed $133,594 for a total amount not to exceed $1,498,434 and declaring an emergency therein.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Questions or comments from the commission? From the audience? Clerk will call the roll.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mr. Copeland?
Yes.
And the next item was added to the agenda, authorizing the issuance of a purchase order for the purchase of one 2002 Pierce Dash mid-mount 100-foot aerial ladder truck from Northeastern Fire for an amount not to exceed $55,000 and declaring an emergency therein.
To adopt.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. So Chief, this saved us a bunch of money, right? And you had to track it down.
Yes, sir, that is the story. Our frontline ladder truck that we bought used some time back, maybe 7 or 8 years ago, has served us fairly well, but it was a bit of a white elephant because it's too tall to fit in almost all of our stations. It's in Columbus now with an estimate of about $30,000 to repair it. We kind of went on a very rapid hunt to see if we could do something about the status of both of our older ladder trucks and found this, I would say, a sweetheart of a deal for $55,000 for the condition it's in. Staff came together in literally the last minutes before this meeting to make this happen. And I think it's a great use and stewardship of taxpayer dollars that should build a very specific niche in our system.
Great job.
And Chief, remind them too, so we have a brand new ladder truck that should come online in the next days or weeks. And then also how this will serve as reserve capacity.
Right, so the biggest piece of this is it will fit in every station that we need it to fit in. So this won't be a frontline unit, it will be a backup unit, but it's gonna save us the maintenance dollars and it's gonna logistically allow us to move it any station we need to in the city. Currently Station 8 has a ladder truck. This will fit in Station 8 where the others won't or won't perform well enough that we wanna keep them in service. So it really is, the moon and the stars aligned for us. I feel great about it.
Brian, I have a
Mr.
question.
O'Neill.
And I meant to ask you this at 05422. Can you explain what the difference in this wheeled fire extinguisher is going to do for us? I think it's a great item that they gave us. I can't even picture it.
Yeah, I think this is an airport item. This is not
Yeah,
coming
this
to
is
the fire
actually probably
department.
better for Tom to answer.
Perfect. I mean, I'd just like to know what the difference is, and I thought our fire extinguishers were the fire truck.
I'm not a fireman, but I can play one on TV. No. This is Select Tech. This is for aviation. So this is out at the hangar, at the Select Tech hangar. Basically a portable fire extinguisher, but it's very large. Has wheels, but it can be wheeled out. We'll use it in the FPL operation. Bring it on.
Okay. Gotcha.
Any other questions from commissioners or comments? Anybody in the audience want to speak to us?
We need to vote on the ladder truck purchase.
What?
We need to still vote on the ladder truck purchase.
Oh, okay. Well, let's do that. Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Rue?
Yes.
Dr. Estrop?
Yes?
Mr. Copeland?
Yes. I thought we'd work that one to death. Nothing from commissioners? Mr. Estrop?
I have a comment and then a couple of questions. First of all, I want to say hi to all of the third grade students at Kenwood Elementary School here in the city. Logan and I went out today. They wanted to know about community. So they're working on communities, the school community, their neighborhood community, and now the city as a community. And I want to say they were charming. They were great, well-behaved, paid attention, and at the end of the day proved that all of them, by working together, were stronger than Logan and I. So we're going to have to hit the gym. I see that. Yeah. But guys, thank you. It was a great time. I also wanted to ask Law Director Jill Allen, where do we stand on acquiring an attorney who's going to specialize in the environment?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, we've been investigating outside counsel, and we have actually started that process and in communication with outside counsel just to explore every possible legal option that we have for somebody that would be devoted purely to working on that for the city.
Do you expect in the very near future that we'll see employment of some firm?
Yes, we absolutely expect that very soon.
Very good. Thank you. And the other question, have you heard from Waste Management, Bryan, in terms of our invitation to the meeting on the 29th?
Yes, Commissioner, I've actually spoke today with a gentleman from Waste Management regarding the meeting. He received the invitation. They are unable to attend on the 29th. He does plan to issue a statement that can be read on the record. But they are aware of the April 13th community meeting, and they plan to be in attendance of that.
I want to remind everyone and all my colleagues, April 13th, Springfield High School, 6 o'clock in the cafetorium. We will be talking about the Tremont barrel fill and the threat it poses to the water supply for this city and a good share of Southwest Ohio. So I hope you can attend. Again, April 13th, 6 o'clock, Springfield High School cafetorium. Thank you.
Anything else to come before us, commissioners? Anyone in the audience want to speak to us? Name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name is Shauna Dover, and I'm actually no longer a resident of Springfield, but my mother and aunt and a lot of family still here. The reason that I decided to attend today, and I can give my mother's address if that works. Okay. The reason that I'm here is because I wanted to speak on an item that you probably have already spoken on, and that was the first reading of ordinance 077-22 on the street and name changes. My grandparents were longtime residents of the city before both of them have recently passed. And so I was inquiring about what it would take to have the street that they lived on for over 60 years, actually 70 years, to be renamed. And so there were just a couple items that I wanted the commission to consider as you're making the decision about the policy changes. And the first being that I believe over 50% of the current residents or current owners on the street have to sign a petition to approve the name change. One of the issues that I see that would be presented in this particular case is that quite a few of the actual owners don't necessarily live in Springfield, and they're renting out properties, or there are empty lots that belong to corporations or belong to out-of-town owners who don't know the history and the fabric of Springfield, therefore don't really have a vested interest in, renaming a street or dual naming a street. So I would just ask that maybe we get a petition from the community at large with a certain number of signatures versus the actual current residents who are not necessarily the owner, because many are renting. So that was the first point that I would ask you to consider. The second, let's see. Oh, the second is that it was a 5-year limitation on the name change request, so it would only be in effect for 5 years. And I would ask that you extend that, maybe not indefinite, but maybe 10 to 25 or so, but extending it beyond the 5-year period. So those were the two items that I would just ask that as a commission you would consider as you are determining whether or not to approve the changes at the next meeting. And thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Commissioners, it might be a good idea to, Logan Cobbs has worked closely with legal on this policy change, and I know I notified, provided some information about it, but Logan, if you just want to kind of run through it real quick and maybe address the two specific items that you brought up.
Sure. So good evening, Commission, and thank you for voicing your concerns there. So a brief overview of the policy change. So the intent of this is to provide opportunities for community members to memorialize and honor citizens from here in Springfield. So for their outstanding contributions to the city or the state or the nation. So there is a non-refundable application fee. We ask that a map be submitted showing where exactly they're hoping for the dual naming to take place. And then a short description of why they're hoping to memorialize this specific person. So individuals must have a distinguished career of 10 years or have made accomplishments or contributions to the city or region. So before, I think it was kind of a tedious process and it was very confusing for a lot of people. So this new policy would come directly to the city manager for review and then be approved by city commission by a resolution. So to talk to the 2 points at hand with the petition part 1 and then the 2 for the length of time. We'll start with the length of time. So it is 5 years, but there is an option for renewal after that 5-year period. So it is an opportunity for the applicant to come forward and say that they'd like to keep those signs up, and that gives us an opportunity to refresh those if necessary, and then revisit the street signs at that time. Regarding the street signage, regarding the petition, that really does give a chance for those that are living on that street to give some input on what that dual naming would be. So certainly understand your concerns about who's actually owning that property and who actually lives here in Springfield and has a vested interest, but it would give those property owners some leadway in what would be hung in the community.
Logan, just another question in regards to that. So at the time of renewal, would the applicant would it be necessary for the applicant to pay another fee?
Yes.
Okay. And then secondly, as far as the people on that street, if you're having the concerns that Ms. Stover was having, then could it be a radius around that particular street so that I'm not just going all over Clark County?
Sure, to try to
get but to meet that need, if that could possibly be something that could be looked at, I think it would meet.
Yeah, that's certainly something that we as staff could consider and bring back to you next meeting.
And I think what's important here is the way this would function. So currently how it's in our code is set forth by Ohio Revised Code. And we just essentially adopted what Ohio Revised Code said. And it's really not being utilized probably in the manner it was intended through our street renamings that have currently happened. But this program being a policy through the city manager's office allows us to look at this more readily, and when there's issues or a burden of proof that, hey, that I can't contact any of these owners, that these owners aren't, living in the community or corporations and so forth, it gives, again, the city manager's office some flexibility, some leeway in understanding the conditions based off of each application, where it's more rigid under the Ohio Revised Code language.
Just one more question. So the second time you come to apply, is there a reduced charge or is it going, for that fee? If you're reapplying, could that be a possibility?
So as the policy is currently written, there would be the standard application fee once again, and we would have to revisit that sign conversation on costs. However, that's something that we could discuss as well.
I tend to agree with you, Crystal. I think there should be some kind of discount, as long as we're not going in, in the hole on it, but some kind of discount for a re-app as opposed to an original app.
Fair enough.
Anyone else out there has something they want to talk about? Well, I must say, where I'm sitting, I can see a little girl having a ball on one of those scooters out there. Is there anything else for us to talk about, or is it time to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Dr. Estrop,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Mr. Rue,
Yes.
Mr. Copeland.
Yes, meeting is adjourned.